Started. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules to talk with us tonight. This is the first of several monthly calls that we're going to have in place of our leadership conference. And our hope in doing this is to try to reach more people and to give more information and to do so in a way that's more convenient for everyone. We will record these calls each month, and we'll have different topics related to all areas of our program. And we'll be sure to send these things out afterwards for anybody that isn't able to join on any particular call. If you could, please mute yourself as we go through this, just to keep the background noise at a minimum. There will be an opportunity to ask and answer questions as we go through. If you have questions as we go through, just go ahead and drop it in the chat, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. And we'll just kind of go from there. Taylor, can you make me a co-host if you haven't already?
You should be.
Okay. So Taylor will let anybody else in that may still be joining. I think we have a few more people signed up that are not here just yet, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go first. And for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Nate Parks. I'm our Vice President of Program here at Specialist Nebraska. Joining me on the call from Sony, we have Dave Deming, our Director of Sport and Competition, Taylor Hill, who is our Director of Volunteer Services, and Amanda Goebbels, who is our Program Support and Database Manager. So what we want to discuss tonight really involves registration to be an athlete, to be a unified partner, to be a coach, how to register for an event, where you can find all this information, when it's due. Want to talk a little bit about sport updates for next year. We're going to talk about the sport and competition calendar, in which we have two now. We have our Sony calendar, which includes state and regional competition. We have our Unified Champion School calendar. So we'll talk a bit about the differences and what that all means. And our hope is to try to help heads of delegation, or HODs, and our school liaisons, especially all of those that are new. We've seen tremendous growth this year as we've returned to play. We're starting to inch closer to pre-pandemic numbers in terms of participation, and we've really been full go going back to really the beginning of March. So we're excited for 2023. We think there's a lot of wonderful things happening, and really appreciate all of you for everything that you do to help our program continue to move forward. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to look a little bit at the Sony website. Give me 1 second. Okay, so for anybody that's not aware, in terms of where things are, if a person wanted to get involved in our program, you can go up to the Get Involved tab, and there is a section for Become an Athlete, Become a Coach, Become a Unified Partner. And if you were to click on any one of these pages, you'll find the different paperwork that's required and links to fill out this paperwork. So for an athlete, for example, if you were brand new, or if someone was brand new, they could fill out this athlete interest form, which will get directly sent to us, and then we'll be in touch with that person. Or they can go straight to these forms right here. We have 6 different attachments here, which includes the registration form, the medical form. A medical is good for 3 years with our program. The athlete code of conduct, the athlete consent form, and then there are 2 forms related to COVID-19, a code of conduct and a waiver form. Okay, so that's where you would find athlete paperwork. All athlete paperwork does go to Amanda Goebbels, and she's going to talk a little bit about registration. If you want to become a coach, same thing, just peer down from the Get Involved section and click on the coach page. And sometimes people contact us because they want to become a coach. They don't have a team in mind. Maybe they have a sport in mind. Maybe they don't. Sometimes people know exactly what they're going to coach and who they're going to coach with. So there's different options here for coaches. The coach's paperwork, if you click here, this tab will take you to everything that a coach would fill out. And if a person is 19 and older, they would fill out all 7 of these different links here. If a person is, let's say, 18, they would only fill out 5. So it just depends a little bit on age. Most of the coaches we get are 19 and older, but sometimes we do get high school age coaches. And so that's where that information is found. This information would go to Taylor because Taylor oversees volunteers. And then same thing for unified partners. You would click here for unified partner, and all the paperwork for a unified partner here. And very similar to a coach, the different attachments are here. Unified partners are looked at more so as volunteers when it comes to insurance and paperwork and things like that. When it comes to sport and competition, we look at them as athletes on our census. So all of this information is required for a person to participate in our program. Whether they're an athlete, whether they're a coach, whether they're a unified partner, it should be done before practice begins leading up to an event. Practice ideally would occur at a minimum 1 time per week for 8 weeks leading up to a particular competition. Obviously, some choose to do much more than that, which is great, but that's really the minimum that is required. And so all of this paperwork should be turned in ideally 12 weeks in advance of an event, but certainly we work with people on those timelines depending on when people become athletes. But definitely needs to be done prior to a person beginning practice, and would absolutely need to be done prior to an event. If something is expired, we just need to know, when we're going to get something updated, and we work with people on that. But as mentioned, a medical is good for 3 years. Okay. Taylor, is anything you would add to the paperwork piece?
Not necessarily. I know some people have had issues just kind of finding the coach's paperwork on this main section of our website, because it is more geared toward people who are wanting to get involved with our program and not people that are already involved. So back at the top there, under our sports tab at the bottom, you'll see the coaches corner, which if you click on will have all the coaches requirements forms there, a little easier for you to find or to send on to your coaches or unified partners. And it kind of, again, reiterates when everything expires, when it's required for them to complete that form, when they're 19, 16, every 2 years. And then just some more information that any coaches might want, some still pertaining to health. And then at the top, again, under that sports tab is athlete resources, where you can find all the required paperwork instead of going through that get involved tab for people. Because again, that's for people who aren't particularly athletes yet or looking to get involved and seeing what becoming an athlete entails. So hopefully this information at the top is just a little more easier for you coaches to find, or for if you want to let parents know, or athletes, caretakers, whatever, know where they can find it a little easier and they can do it themselves. All of our forms are fillable, so they can fill it out right on their computer or iPhone. Just once they fill it out, they need to save it as another file, and then they can email it to you, and then you can forward it on to me. But hopefully that makes it a little easier to fill out, so then you're not having to print all the forms as well. But nope, other than that, I don't have much to add about the paperwork.
Okay, well, thank you, Taylor. So obviously there's more than one location to find some of this stuff, but we want to make sure that people know where to go on our website. And sometimes people will call and ask for hard copies of things. We're happy to provide that as well. Just contact Amanda at our main office line and we can get you what you need. The next thing I want to point out, if you go under the sports tab and you look under sports offered, at the bottom of this page, you will see a map that shows the different regions that we have and where, what region you might fall in depending on where you live. Sometimes people will call and they'll be like, which event is the one that I would compete at or our team would go to. And so we have the East region, the East Central region, the West Central, and the West. And Dave will point out on the competition calendar, how you can differentiate between different regional competitions and how that's all coded. But this is on the sports offered page. If you just go to the bottom. Okay. The next thing I want to do is just mention that this paperwork that is required is obviously required for any state and regional competition. Up until this point, we have not always required it for our Unified Champions school-based events. We are moving forward going to require this paperwork, and there are different reasons for that. One, it helps with efficiency. We have a lot more schools that are competing at state and regional competition. And when we have two different processes and systems, it makes it more confusing for them. It makes it more confusing for our staff. And it makes it more difficult to get everything prepared and ready in time for a particular event. Another reason is that Special International does require us to turn in census information every year. And we are required moving forward to have our Unified Champion School events in our games database. And so we need to follow the same processes so we can have those events, all those registrants entered, all of that type of thing. We have to keep track of more than 100 events a year, thousands of athletes and unified partners. And there's several different ways that we have to report that type of information. So it will make it easier to be able to do that. Also, when you look at things from an insurance perspective, when we don't have people registered, they're not insured. And so in some cases, the event may be run by someone else, but a lot of those Unified Champion School events are run by us. And so for those events, especially, we need to have people registered for our events. We understand that this is going to become very challenging for our schools, knowing how many school-age students are often participating in these events. And so we will work with all of you and provide any kind of training. We'll have individual meetings to help if needed. Just reach out to me and I'll connect you with the right person. Same thing goes for any new head of delegation for our community-based delegation. We are happy to sit down with you one-on-one and talk about paperwork, what we need to do, who it goes to, all of those things, how to get registered for an event. Just let us know and we're happy to help. The good news is that once all of that information is done on the front end, it really saves you time on the back end, because paperwork is good for a long time. It's not something that has to be updated every event or every year even. Obviously, every event, the team has to register and we need to know who's participating in that particular event, but you're not turning in all of that paperwork every time we have an event. So that is good. So we will be moving forward with our Unified Champion School events, requiring this information, starting with a basketball competition we're having in late January. And I believe Megan and Arissa from our UCS team have already provided communication about that to schools. But as I mentioned, we are here to help, and just reach out to me if there's anything that we can do. Okay, next, I want to show everyone where the coaches portal is. So on our website, on the top right, you'll see member login. So you click on that. And I'm already logged in. But to log in, you would type capital S, capital O, and then lowercase coach, all one word for the username. And then the password is the same, capital S, capital O, lowercase coach, all one word, plus the number 1. And that's how you would get into our coaches portal. And in the coaches portal, you can find those competition calendars. You can find information related to specific games. You can look at missing paperwork reports. There's sport resources, rules, a lot of different things here. We have information related to our coaches clinic each summer, information related to fundraisers, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to send it over to Dave next, and he's going to kind of take it from here to talk a bit about the portal and the competition calendars.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, so I either need Taylor to just open some stuff up for me or allow me to have my screen, either one. Okay, good. So can everyone see my screen? Because I can't see you anymore. So yes? No? Okay.
We just see you. We don't see your screen.
Let me see 1 second here. I'm not, oh, let's try. Give me 1 second here. I'm not finding my shared screen, sorry.
It should be the
Mhm.
green.
It's not at the bottom.
Under the 3 dots, I'm looking at 3 dots.
Well, if you do the green at the bottom, there should be a big green button at the bottom, share screen. And then it'll select the screen you want to share.
Yeah, share content. Yep. There you go.
We good? Okay. Yep, sorry. All right, so I'll go to member login like Nate talked about. As you said, I've already logged in, SO Coach 1. What we'll go to is the competition calendar. So it's just located right down here as you halfway down. Click on that. So we still have the 22 calendar up, and then the 23 calendar is the next one that we will have. And so some of the things to pay attention to, the date of our competition here is on the left. You can see we have a lot of them filled in the beginning. Generally, we have the whole thing filled in by this time, but as you can probably understand, getting gym space is difficult this year for everyone, and that includes us. And finding venues to work with is difficult. So we've got a lot of the ones from the beginning of the year locked up. We're still missing a couple as we get later on down in the year. And so if it's green, it means we've completely locked it up. They're ready to go. If there's any yellow or red in there, it means I'm still working with some part of that either date or venue or something that we're working with. But anything green on the left means we're good to go. The next column over is actually where the competition is going to be held. The city, the venue we're going to be at. As Nate referred to before, I would talk more about the regions. So the region's either going to be Sony, which is put on by the state office, or there'll be an E for an East region event, a W for a West region, WC is West Central, and EC is East Central. So if you don't know which region you're in, if you're starting out, you can go to that map Nate provided, and that will tell you which region, or you can email the office or call the office. We'll walk you through it. Some events, we do allow you to participate outside of your region. So for many years, if basketball is offered in multiple regions on different days and you want to take your team to both, the nice thing about that registration that Nate was talking about is we can use that one registration for multiple events because we already have all your qualifying information for those events. And as he alluded to, for the school events also that go out, I believe there should be a checkbox in there saying, do you want to participate in your school event and in a Special Olympics, either regional event or state event. You click that box. I know then to put you into our event also, and I use the exact same qualifying score, so you don't have to do any more work. Your paperwork's already good. Your qualifying score is good. Your team's good. I know who wants to play. It makes it really easy for you to play in multiple events by just sending in one registration. So I know the registration might seem like a lot, having to ask for all those qualifying information, but once it's in, we can use it for multiple events. So it's very helpful. This next column here is a list of missing paperwork. So we send this out about 4 times a year. And what we try and do is we try and send it out about 12 weeks before an event. So it kind of gives you an idea that what's coming up, what I have to look for this year, who's missing, who's missing paperwork right now, who's going to be missing paperwork later on. And we do get some requests later on in the year where people say, hey, can you send me an updated list? You can just look at any old list because it'll have the dates of all your athletes in there. Even if they haven't expired yet, you can see later on in the year when they are going to expire because we'll have those dates in there as well. So as you see, we got one coming up here in January. We'll do one in February. I know those seem pretty close to each other, but it's because our spring games is right here at the end of March, beginning of April, and then we go into summer games right here. So we want to try and give you enough time to get both those in and check your paperwork. Here's 8 weeks out before an event. We want the participants' paperwork to be up to date. That's why we send you this missing paperwork, so you can kind of get an understanding of who's going to be needing stuff up to date by the time this 8 weeks is out, so that when you have them at your first practice, their paperwork is completely up to date. You should have that all ready to go by your first practice. If anyone's stepping on the floor or in the gym with you, they should be ready to go with all their paperwork so that you're not liable, so that our certificate of insurance will cover them because they've had all their paperwork and they're able to do this. Then when we send out a registration from Amanda, or I'm sorry, it goes on the website, we send out the email to you guys telling you it's on the website. It'll be due back to us 4 weeks before that event. And that's usually on a Sunday night we try and do. So that gives you all that time beforehand, plus the weekend to get that in. And usually it comes piling into us that late Sunday, and that's fine. We used to try and do it on a Friday. It didn't work because people were working all week, and then they'd still send it to us over the weekend. So we at least gave you the weekend 4 weeks beforehand. And the reason we want it 4 weeks beforehand is we go through all that paperwork, all that information you send to us. We want to clean it all up, get people divisioned, and then send it back out to you one more time to double check to make sure we haven't missed any of your athletes, any unified partners, coaches, things like that. So it gives us some time, and it takes a while to get all these athletes into the game. So it takes us some time to get all the information. We kind of send out a first draft of this is who we have. Are we missing anybody? We want to make sure we're not leaving athletes out when we're trying to book a venue like bowling, where if I'm missing the athlete, I don't have a lane for him. It's kind of hard to figure out where we're going to add an extra lane when there isn't one. So that's why we have that time frame for that. So that's what this last column refers to, is 4 weeks out when registration is due back to us. Occasionally coaches will email me and say, hey, you know what, I wasn't able to get a little bit of information. Can I send it to you Monday morning? Yep, that's usually fine, as long as it's not, too late as I'm going through everything. It's nice to have everything at once so we can go through that. So all that goes back to Amanda. So she's the one who puts it on the website. On the top of the registration has her email. It all goes back to her. She cleans it up, and then she will send it to either myself, a regional coordinator if it's in their region, or if it's a school-based event, she'll send it to whoever needs to handle the school stuff. So that's kind of what that means. Let's see. Let me do this now. I'm going to go over another quick little thing here. So coming up is basketball. And so if you wanted to register for basketball, you would go down to regional basketball here, because that's what's coming up. Right now, we only have these 3 regions. We don't have the East region ready to go yet, because we are still, as I said before, finalizing a venue and an actual date. So we don't have that registration ready, but it will be soon. But these are all the forms you would possibly need for basketball. If you want to do team skills, these ones handle team skills. If you're going to play 5-on-5 or 3-on-3, you would just you would fill out the registration up here. But these are any rules that are kind of different for us, that maybe we've made some adjustments to. If you want to do skills, that's all in here. So I'm going to click on, I'll just show you a quick one. So if you have someone that wants to do individual skills and you don't know how to set it up, this tells you the 3 individual skills. So it's going to be a target pass. It kind of gives you some information on it. It has the 10-meter dribble, and then it has the spot shot. And then you're like, okay, I don't really know what that means. So as you scroll down a little more, this will actually, sorry, get rid of that. This will give you the information, what you need, how you would set up the drill, so, and then how the scoring works for this particular target pass. And then you go on to the dribble one. This breaks down what the dribble looks like, what you would need, how you score it. And then you go on to the third one, which is the spot shot. Tells you where to set up the spots, what each spot means, and then what their points are. So that's how you would set it up. You would just fill out the information in here, and this is how you would get your points for each one. So when we ask for that information on the registration, you would already have this information, how to get that to us. And that's just if you wanted to do something like level A. 5-on-5 is traditional, like 5-on-5 is played. 3-on-3 is a little different. So there's some rules and adaptations in here that we have. So the main thing is, if you don't know how to assess your players, you're going to go to the individual assessment form. So there's 2 forms you do with that, the team one and the individual one. Start with the individual one. And this is going to give you each player you would do this for. So it's going to have a skill of ball handling, a skill of passing, movement, game awareness, shooting, and rebounding. And it gives a little score next to each one of these. So let me go back to topic. So ball handling, if they have difficulty dribbling and catching the ball, you would give them a 2. But if they have the ability to beat a defender with either hand, right or left, you'd give them an 8. So you take a score into each one of these categories for each one of your players. You get down the bottom, you have a total score. The maximum they could get would be 48. There's 6 of these. The highest you can get for each is 8. 6 times 8 is 48. That's how you would assess that player. You would then take your whole team and you're just going to put them down here. This is something that you can keep for yourself, but also this is what you're going to submit to Amanda, agoobles@sony.org. So you would have the name and their total here. So that first one might be a 48, the next one might be a 36, 24, whatever. Then we have a total at the end, and that's what we're going to use to division your team based on your team score. So some people might have 8 people on their team, some might have 10. We're going to use that to get an average, and we'll determine which division that it'll be in based on that. And again, all these forms live under the basketball registration. And that, so I showed you the individual one and then how to do it for the whole team. If you have someone that's going to do just the skills, you have individual and you have level A. And then if they're going to do team skills, which is they're not going to do an individual one, but they're not going to play 3-on-3. You would use this to set that up. This kind of tells you how the diagram should look. It tells you what your scoring is for each. So it's 1 point for each, and then 2 points if they make the basket. You can never have more than 55 points for the half, and you would play 2 halves. But you look at this form, there are other supplemental forms if you want to do the team skills. So that's all lives in that same spot. It's really easy, and we'll do that for each sport as they come up. If there's anything different for soccer or like football, they will all live under the registration part. So it's all on one page once you get there in the coaches portal. All right, so I think I am done with my screen. Taylor or Nate, if you want to.
Can I ask a quick question? This is
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes, Carrie.
Can you go to the team individual skills score sheet? Bring that up. Not that one. The individual
Sorry.
level A skills. I'm sorry,
Sorry.
I told you the wrong one.
Individual
The
skills
score sheet,
Yep.
the one
Mhm.
underneath it. The one underneath it.
Okay, I'll go that one. This guy right here.
That one right there.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so now when you look at the spot shot, it
Mhm.
appears that there's only one score for each of those 6 spots, but I thought they had the ability, I thought the score was supposed to be for
Yeah. Two times each.
two rotations. So I just wanted
Yep.
to clarify what we're supposed to be doing with that.
It should be, and I will take a look at that. And this might. I will look at that tomorrow morning, Carrie, when I can dig into it, and I will send an email out to make sure we have the correct one up, and I'll make sure because I know exactly what you're
Okay.
talking about. Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks.
All right. So I stopped sharing my screen. Is that correct? Okay.
I have a question. On your team skills diagram, it shows how your players rotate.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only way they can rotate?
Yep. So they rotate
is number 1 always in that position there under
in
the
that,
basket?
yes. Down on the
Okay.
bottom. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has to stay on that side. It's not on the other side.
Right. And they're going to
Okay.
rotate in that
Okay.
way. Yep.
Because we have run into past where we've had some teams start on the other side and they rotate the other way around. But it has to be where it is. Okay.
Yep. It should all be done that way. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, Dave, for going over that information. Next, let's move over to Amanda, who's going to talk about event registration.
Yes, so I'll share my screen now. So I'm on the coaches portal, like Dave and Nate both were. So when I send out an email and say that there's a registration up, you just go to the page that the event is on. So we'll just go back to basketball since that's coming up here soon. So usually on the top of the page, there will be the registration, the link. So you just click on the region that you're in and it will open up to this Excel sheet. And are you guys all able to see the Excel sheet? No?
It looks like it's loading.
Okay. There. So this is what the registration will look like. Up at the top, it'll have, so all the registrations look pretty much the same. But on the top, we'll have the region and the event, and then your location and event date will be on the left. The due date's right up here at the top as well with my email. So the drop downs, the sorts, you're able to sort through the different delegations and just look at your own, so you're not sorting through hundreds or thousands of athletes and partners and coaches. So you would just unselect all of the teams and then say you're Seward. You just want to see the Seward athletes and participants. Click on that box there, hit OK, and then that will bring up just the Seward people there. Then you would go over just following the line of the participant here. You can click on yes, they're participating. Then there's a drop down for the different events. Say you want to do 5-on-5. And then as you scroll over, there's the individual person's qualifying score. So this will be just for Craig, for example, if he's participating in this. Not the full team, just the one person. And then the team name, put that in there so that way we know who is competing with who's on the same teams. You'll see this for bowling, if they're doing doubles or teams, if they're doing a relay in athletics, volleyball, any team sport, just make sure that's on there as well. And then there is a comments box as well. This is where you would put anything extra that we need to know about that participant. So if they are blind, if they're ramp for bowling, if maybe they're hard of hearing, anything like that, you can put in there so we can make note of that when we get them registered. So once you guys get these all done, you save them, send them back to me. And then like Dave said, I'll either pass them along to the regional coordinator, the UCS folks, or I will take care of them. So that is registration.
Amanda, did you just want to mention about adding people in red at the
Oh,
bottom?
yes. Yeah.
And how I think now we're going to start asking for age, at least if you know it.
Yes. So if there's somebody on here or not on here that needs to be, so say you have a new athlete or they might be with a different delegation, something like that, you can add them down here and they'll be in red. So you just type in all of their stuff here. And then just the rest is like normal. But like Taylor said, we might be adding an age column to anybody that you're adding, just because we don't, if they're not on here, most likely we don't have their paperwork yet. So we don't know what age they are, and that can affect divisioning a little bit. So we are going to be adding that going forward as well. Yeah, and then everything else is just like normal.
I have a
Amanda,
question. So there's
ahead.
no COVID questions on the registration this year? We don't have to do that anymore?
Nope.
Nope.
Good.
We still do need the COVID-19 code of conduct and the communicable diseases waiver. We still need that paperwork, but not on the registrations as of right now.
And then one thing I'll add to like the registration process is I know a lot of times It can be easy just to add your athletes and maybe unified partners if it's a unified event and select them as participating, but not select coaches or the HODs that are participating. I think, but if we can be cognizant of that in the future, of making sure you select yes as a coach will be there coaching that day. I know things can change, but just for census purposes and everything, we do need to have record of how many coaches are at an event, how many unified partners are there. So just a reminder to also include coaches when you do your registration.
If I can
And
just piggyback on a couple of those real quick. So that's really important for regional events and state events. So I get a lot of emails from HODs or coaches around summer games saying, hey, I don't have a credential for, I'm gonna say Donna. And it's just because we're pulling all that information out of the games that happened previous. So if Donna didn't say she was coaching in that track regional event, then when I go to pull all the track people in for the state games, for the summer games, and we make credentials based on that, it's not going to pull her name, and then we have to try and use those generic coach ones that we make. So that's kind of why we ask for that information. Also, Amanda, I don't know if you talked about the comment column all the way on the far right. That's for any coaches or any information that you want to tell us that we might need to know. That really comes up a lot in swimming, when they tell us the athlete needs lane number 1 or lane number 8 because they need to be right by the side. So that's really helpful for me to know ahead of time, and then I don't have to try and move people around that last week or two before the event. Same thing, I run into that with track and field. We'll have a couple of blind athletes that will need the rope, and they'll need an outside lane. And some really helpful information for me is, yeah, they're blind, they need the rope, but also, do you want them in lane 1 or lane 8? Because you might be practicing with them and they're right-handed, and so you're constantly having them hold the rope in their right hand, and I just see that they're blind. I put them in lane 1, and now that rope is going to be on their left side. They're not used to that, so I want to try and mimic their practice as much as possible. So any information that you need to give me, put in that comment section. That really helps as we're putting together the event. So just keep that in mind when that comes up. Thanks.
We had an athlete, this is Donna at Seward. We have an athlete that is from York. Now, when Leslie and I entered it, we did not put her at the end of the Seward list. We just found her on the York list.
Yep, that's fine.
That's fine.
So
Okay.
if you, yeah. As long as the biggest thing for me, for my purposes on here, is this participating column, because I sort by the yeses.
Yes. Well, so will she be under the Seward delegation then?
She'll be in York. If you want her switched to Seward, we can do that on our end.
She only does bocce and bowling with us, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, and we can, I mean, we probably have her on both, but just the primary delegation shows up on the registrations.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep.
Amanda, do you want to show a search real quick if they don't know which delegation their athlete might also be on and they're somewhere? That's a quick, easy way for them to find them.
Yep. So just make sure you go back to select all if you're looking for a specific athlete that is not in your delegation. So I'm just going to search. So if you hit Control F on here, it'll pop up with the search. So I'm just going to search for myself since I just put myself on here, and then you click on Find Next, and then it'll take you right to that name. Or if there's multiple ones, let's look at Amanda. There might be more of those. Oh, nope, I'm only Amanda. Oh, there's another Amanda. So it'll take you to all the different Amandas or whatever name you're searching for. And then you just fill them out like normal.
That's helpful. We have a couple delegations that only do tennis, Omaha Tennis Buddies, Lincoln Tennis Buddies, and all their athletes do every other sport. So they kind of have a hard time finding their athletes. But if you have someone that is on multiple delegations, you might not be the first delegation that they're listed under. So that's a great way to find them. If you're having trouble supposed to scrolling through the whole thing, try that control find first, and that'll really, they might be on there. You might not even have to go down and add them in red. So.
All right, this is Melissa out in Chadron. Well, and on our registration, a lot of times there's all kinds of athletes that are no longer participating, or we don't even know who they are, that are in the Chadron delegation, and coaches. How do we get rid of those, or do we, I guess, do we not worry about it?
I mean, if you kind of notice them, like as time goes on or whatever, you can just send them to me and let me know. So then I can mark them as something different so they don't show up on the registration anymore. Or if they're with a different delegation or something like that, just let me know.
Okay.
And we do try and clean that up as we go, because it's going to continually change. So the more you know that, the more we can try and stay on top of it. We know it's a problem. It does happen a lot, and we try and respond to those emails and clear them up so they don't show up again. That's one of our goals for sure.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Are there any other questions for Amanda about event registration before I move forward to talk about some sport updates? Okay, well, we'll take some time at the end too if there are any questions that come to mind. Amanda did put in the chat that password for the coaches portal, capital S, capital O, lowercase coach for the username, all one word, and then the password's the same plus the number 1. So if anybody ever has trouble logging in, just let us know. But hopefully that'll work out for you if you've never been into the coaches portal. So the next thing I'd like to do is just talk about some general updates for next year and things to expect. Dave had talked about our competition calendar still having some things to be figured out. We are finding that some of our venues that we work with, since we've returned full go from the pandemic, have either changed staff or changed processes and practices. We just have found some more challenges with booking venues, especially booking them as far in advance as that we'd like to do. So some things that are still being determined. One, probably the next event that we're still figuring out details would be that East Region basketball competition. It's typically been held in Fremont at the YMCA. That's still an option that we're looking at. We are looking at some other options as well. Circumstances have just changed for them, and we don't have all of the courts available to us. And so we're assessing right now what's the best way to move forward. And so Jay Neelam, our regional coordinator, is working with Corey, who's our head of delegation in Fremont, as well as Dave, to try to determine what's the best route to take. We hope to have that figured out very, very soon. But that event could be potentially moved to another location or even held in 2 different locations. We'll figure out what's the best way to proceed. There are some regional competitions later in the spring that we're still determining along the lines of track and field, as you saw, but hopefully those will be ironed out very soon. The West Central swim competition that's typically held in Hastings is going to move to Kearney for 1 year, just due to some construction going on at the YMCA in Hastings. But we'll come back to Hastings in 2024. Fall games, bocce is up in the air a little bit in terms of where that will be held. We're looking at some different options right now. We are hoping to continue to keep fall games in Lincoln. That is our #1 goal. But unfortunately, the venue where we've held bocce the last couple of years, it's a challenge. And so we are looking at some other options right now. And so we hope to have that figured out very soon. It is a challenge to figure out because there's not a lot of options to us to hold something indoors on turf, which is the ideal scenario. We'd prefer to not be outside again, but we're looking at what's going to be best there. So we'll hopefully have a resolution to that very soon as well. Equestrian, we will be moving from Central City. We are looking at joining the Lancaster County Fair in late July to hold our equestrian competition. So we're just working out some final details for that, but that is the plan as of right now. our flag football and soccer competition that was held in October in Papillion. This next year, unfortunately, we cannot book that venue just yet. And the earliest we'll be able to do that will be June. So we're looking at some options there. Our goal is to still continue to be in Papillion at Papillion Landing where it was held. It was a good venue for us. Dave is working on that, and we'll let you know as soon as we have a resolution to that. And then when you look at our UCS calendar, some of the school-based events, we're still ironing out a date for our spring volleyball invitational, our bowling event for transition students, and just a few other things. We will be starting our intramurals at the University of Nebraska-Kearney this next semester, so we're excited about that. We started intramurals at Creighton this past fall. We'll continue with our intramurals at UNL. We have basketball and soccer coming up this spring, and then UNO is next on the list for unified intramural. So a lot of exciting things happening for our college-aged athletes. Great opportunities for them to get involved in something fun and to meet new people. One of the things that we'll be taking a close look at with our program committee this next year include a coach's education policy. It's been a few years since we've revisited that topic, so we're going to be taking a look at that this next year. We're also looking at recruitment and retention, and we look at different communities across the state for volunteers, for athletes, making sure that we're looking to the future, making sure that we have a sustainable model, looking at succession planning for heads of delegation and key volunteers. And we're also currently in the process of updating a weather policy so that when we have extreme cold or extreme heat and things like that, we know exactly what will happen in terms of protocols. We had at fall games this year, we were very close to being at that threshold of being too hot to be outside. And so that's really what kind of triggered that it's time to update that as well. We will be in touch very soon about tryouts for the Union Omaha Unified Soccer Team. That was really successful this past year. Once we find out Union Omaha's schedule, we will be able to create our schedule for this next year in terms of when the tryouts are, when practices will be, when the games will be, because we'll be playing with Special Olympics Wisconsin again, both home and away. And the exciting thing with that as well is that we're seeing other states across the country kind of do what we did this last year, and that's really fun to see. So it's what we did was very successful, and other people want to do it as well. So that's just some of the things that we wanted to make sure you're aware of. Dave, am I missing anything important that we want to mention? Sport specific or event specific, just so people are aware?
Nope, I think that's it. We will be coming out with our new rules that we'll start using next year. Those are just being released by Special Miss North America. I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow morning at 6:30, and maybe we'll talk about some of them. But as we get them updated, we will put them on the site. Up until then, we will use the ones we've always been using. So we'll give you some heads up before we switch over. And if for some reason we don't switch over before we send out registration for a sport, we will stick with the ones that we've been using at that point. So we want to give you guys time to practice the new rules if there are changes to your sport before we implement them.
Okay, and the other thing I had written down that I wanted to mention too is that we will be doing the fitness combine again this next year. We'll have information sent out in early January for registration, and that'll begin in February. So for anybody that hasn't participated in the past, it's a virtual fitness combine that just helps people get up and get active and do different things. It was very successful. We had over 1,100 participants during the pandemic. We had about half of that last year. We have a lot of schools that participated, and it's really fun. It's a great team building thing to do as well. If it's something you've never done, let us know. We can get you that information, but we'll be doing that again as well. So at this time, I just really want to open it up to questions that anybody might have. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask if you have any questions.
Nate, this is Sandra Gobb. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I had it muted. I was just wondering, we have tried everything to find a unified bowling partner for one of my athletes. It's been a couple of years we've been searching. Do you have any unified players or anybody coming in that would be willing to be a unified bowler for one of my athletes?
Taylor, I'll let you answer this question. I think sometimes it's harder to find more of the adult population, to get those unified partners, and people when they do register a lot of times have an athlete in mind, but I think occasionally it does happen. Taylor, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I haven't had anyone recently in the last probably year reach out about just wanting to be a unified partner that wasn't familiar or didn't have a team or a partner in mind when they filled out the application. One thing I can look into is like some teams maybe in the Omaha area that don't do unified bowling that would have those unified partners for other sports. So maybe if a unified partner is interested in doing unified bowling because they already do unified basketball, but their team doesn't do bowling, I can maybe look into that for you and just get some ideas. Otherwise, I don't have too many people that just sign up. That is something I kind of want to start pushing, is more unified partner coaches getting applied that don't have a team or a reason for applying, like someone that just is passionate about the sport and wants to get involved and be with our athletes. That's just a little bit harder. Volunteers are kind of, I mean, day of event volunteers are hard enough to come by in the last year or so. So getting commitment sometimes is a little harder.
Yes, you gave me a young lady that I did contact a number of times, but she never did get, because she wanted to be a unified partner and stuff, but she never did get back to me. So that happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember giving you guys one, and so I never knew what had kind of come of that. But
Yeah.
I would say since her, I haven't had anyone reach out really
Okay.
looking to find a team to participate with as far as unified partners.
Okay. And we can always use, if someone's looking just to, their team doesn't do bowling or bocce, but they want to, we will certainly take on a new athlete for either one of those sports.
Yeah. And two, we are kind of expanding with Creighton and UNO, getting those unified clubs and sports started. So we can also maybe put it out to some of those students and see if they would want to get involved more with our local teams. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
Good question, Sandra. Anybody else have anything? Okay, well, we really appreciate your time this evening. I'll hang around for a few minutes if anybody has anything, but feel free to reach out to us at any point with any questions. We'll have information for next month's topic out soon when we send out the recording. We'll kind of let you know what to expect. But please feel free to join on these calls month to month. But like I said earlier, we'll record them and send them out after if you can't make it. But our hope is that we can reach more people and provide you the necessary information you need to be successful. But we're always here if you need anything. So thanks for your time. Happy holidays. Have a great evening.
I just had one thing. Someone is on here as iPad 4. And I just wanted to verify who that was so I can record it for my records.
Taylor, I think it's me. It's Leslie Leapart from Seward.
Okay. All right. I will just make sure to write that down. And then I will be sending out an email tomorrow, just thanking everybody for coming on and then letting you know about our next meeting, which will be the first Monday of next month at the same time. So I'll just have some more information to send out to you guys tomorrow.
I just have one question. It's Donna at Seward. I know you said you're hoping that we can stay on turf, and that hopefully is the ultimate goal, is to stay bocce on turf.
That is the goal. Yes, Donna.
Okay. Because we just bought big bucks, turf courts this year. So I'm hoping we can anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the option of turf is very easily attained. The hard part is being indoors. But it's possible that we may use a different surface. Honestly, one of the surfaces we're evaluating is carpet, which would speed up the game even more. And the only reason we would do that if that's our only option, be indoors.
And
So
I
it's,
just wanted to say, Donna, I got your text. That reminded me, a lot of people have been asking me about certificates of insurance. I literally checked before I left work today to see if the 2023 certificate was out yet. It is not. I emailed them last week and they said it would be out in the next week to two. I'm anticipating it'll probably be Christmas Day. I'll get it and I'll just start working and send it out to you guys on that day. But hopefully they don't wait that long. Sometimes they've waited pretty deep into December for this, and I know everyone needs it to start the next year. So it becomes my number one priority at the end of December, as soon as I get it, to get it out to you guys. So I know you're all waiting for it. And as soon as I get it, I'll keep checking every day and I'll start sending them out to you guys. I know you need them. So I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
okay. Well, thanks again.
Yep.
Have a great evening, everyone. Happy holidays, and we'll talk soon.